The crowd gasped when the tall, sharp-suited CEO leaned back against the glossy tennis court gate and smirked at the man who had just finished mopping the stadium floor. His words cut through the spring air like broken glass. "Beat me in tennis and I'll marry you," he sneered, pointing at the janitor clutching a rag and broom, his shirt damp with sweat. The laughter that rippled through the crowd stung harder than the challenge itself. Nobody believed the man in torn shoes and calloused hands could lift a racket, let alone stand a chance against the arrogant businessman who treated the court as his personal throne. But what they didn't know, what froze their laughter into silence, was the secret the single dad janitor had carried, buried under years of pain, sacrifice, and love for his little girl. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of hidden strength, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal to support more stories that touch the heart. Rafael Cortez never dreamed his life would shrink into the rhythm of sweeping floors and polishing tiles. Once he was a rising star in national tennis, a young man with lightning reflexes and a racket that seemed born in his hands. But life had a cruel way of reminding him that dreams didn't always pay the bills. His wife had died in childbirth, leaving him to raise little Marisol alone. She was everything, his sunshine, his heartbeat, his reason to rise each morning. But raising her meant leaving behind sponsorships, training, and the life he once had on the courts. Instead, Rafael took the janitor's job at the very tennis club where he had once trained, watching from the sidelines as others chased the dream he had quietly buried. To the members he was invisible, a man with rough palms and tired eyes. To the rich executives who strutted across the courts, he was someone to laugh at, and none laughed louder than Victor Harlow, the CEO who had recently bought the club. Victor loved humiliating people beneath him, and Rafael was his favorite target. The janitor's quiet dignity infuriated him. He wanted to see the man break, to watch him bow. The morning of the annual charity tournament shimmered with heat. Wealthy donors filled the stands, sipping cold drinks dressed in linen and silk. Rafael moved between the rows, pushing his mop bucket, when Victor's voice boomed. "You there, janitor!" The crowd turned. Victor tossed a racket at Rafael's feet. "Why don't you give us a show? Or is mopping the only game you know?" The crowd roared with laughter. Rafael's instinct was to walk away. He had lived years learning to swallow insults for the sake of Marisol's school fees and their small rented apartment. But then he heard it. His daughter's voice, sweet and small, carrying across the seats. She had been allowed to sit in the stands today because no babysitter was available. "Papi, you can do it," she cried, her brown eyes shining with faith. And suddenly, Rafael felt the old fire flicker in his chest. Victor smirked, stepping closer. "Beat me in tennis and I'll marry you," he said mockingly, throwing the line like a dagger. The crowd howled in delight at the absurdity. For them, it was a joke. For Rafael, it became a test of everything he had once been. The match was set. People pulled out their phones expecting a spectacle, expecting Rafael to stumble, to miss, to fail spectacularly. The court, gleaming in the afternoon sun, felt both alien and familiar under his shoes. His fingers trembled as he picked up the racket, heavier than he remembered yet perfectly fitted to his grip. Marisol's little hands clapped from the bleachers, her voice cheering louder than all the laughter combined. Victor opened with arrogance, slamming serves at blistering speed, expecting Rafael to miss. But on the very first shot, something happened. The ball met the strings of Rafael's racket with a crisp, clean sound, and the return sliced through the air like lightning. Victor's smirk faltered. The crowd gasped. Rafael's movements were not those of a janitor. They were the graceful, precise movements of a man who had lived on courts like this, who had once trained until his body shook with exhaustion. Every rally grew faster, more punishing. Sweat rolled down Rafael's temples, but his focus was razor-sharp. The years of pushing brooms had only hardened his body, adding strength to the fluid instincts he had never truly lost. The sound of the crowd changed, from mocking laughter to murmurs of disbelief, then to roaring cheers. "Who is this guy?" someone whispered. Others began recording, capturing the unbelievable sight of the janitor holding his own against the CEO. Victor's confidence wavered. His serves faltered. His footwork crumbled. He began snarling, hurling insults, but Rafael didn't flinch. His mind was on Marisol, on her smile, on the nights he skipped meals so she could eat, on the dreams he had buried so she could live. Every swing was for her. Every point was proof that he was more than what life had reduced him to. The match reached its climax with both men tied. The final rally stretched long, a blur of motion, sweat, and gasps from the crowd. Victor lunged desperately, but his shot was sloppy, and Rafael saw his chance. With one last strike, he sent the ball screaming across the court, past Victor's reach. The CEO stumbled and fell. The ball bounced once, twice, game over. For a moment silence reigned. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the stands erupted, not with laughter but with thunderous applause. The janitor had done the unthinkable. He had beaten the CEO. Cameras flashed, voices shouted, and the crowd surged to its feet. Victor sat on the ground, red-faced, humiliated, unable to rise. Marisol ran across the court, throwing herself into her father's arms. He dropped the racket and held her tight, his heart pounding not from the game but from the joy of making her proud. Tears glistened in his eyes as she whispered, "I knew you could do it, Papi." Victor tried to brush off the loss, muttering excuses, but the world had already seen. Reporters swarmed. Clips of the match spread online within hours. The janitor who humbled the CEO, becoming a sensation. Sponsors who had once ignored Rafael came searching for him again. The club members who mocked him now offered respect, some even shamefaced apologies. But none of that mattered as much as the way Marisol looked at him. With pride, with awe, with love. Rafael didn't care about marrying a CEO's daughter or being part of anyone's bet. What mattered was that for once, the world had seen him not as a man with a mop, but as a father who had fought and won. And deep inside, he knew this was just the beginning. He would not go back to hiding his talent. He would not let the past steal his future again. With Marisol by his side, he would rebuild, not for glory, not for fame, but for the love that had carried him through every shadow.